It's your first
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our very special evening. We're Paul and Christian of Paul and Christian Associates, and we're thrilled to be at a sneak preview of one of our upcoming listings here at 84 Joicey Blvd in the Prime Cricket Club. So I'm going to pass it over to Christian to make an introduction to our very, very, very special guest this evening.
I was going to say, more than just being at a sneak preview of a new listing, we're actually in a top chef's kitchen. Speaking of a chef's kitchen, with Grant Van Gameren, who's joining us tonight for one of our first experiential events we're launching. Paul and I have already been brainstorming and we are looking forward to the next one as well. But today, we're very, very excited to have Grant with us. Grant has already successfully in the past done events with us. So Grant, over to you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Welcome, thanks for joining us. Today we are gonna cook some stuff. We're not gonna, you're not gonna get a recipe at the end. We're really just talking about how to cook a few different types of foods and tips and tricks. And we're gonna start with a lot of people's favorite, which is a really good quality steak from Cumbrae's, a beautiful aged ribeye. We're also going to do a simple side potato dish that you can whip up at home very easily. And then we're also going to do an appetizer of just a ceviche, so a Ceviche Verde, which is a raw marinated fish and actually cooked by citrus. It's a dish where I feel like a lot of people are intimidated to try making it at home. Whenever you're dealing with something like a raw fish. I just want to kind of go over the basic techniques and kind of what's going on when you're actually cooking it with acid, so that because it's a really fun dish just for entertaining at home in the spring and the summer when the weather's hot, with a cold beer.
But before Grant was on camera with all of you, Paul and I were discussing Grant's career, and Grant was saying actually this didn't start as a passion at all. This started as purely a job, working hard, working your way up, and then all of a sudden becoming creative, becoming a passion, and marrying somebody who shares the same passion as you.
That's right. I mean, I started at Pizza when I was 16. That was my introduction to the food world. And food world. And then I went to Harvey's and Jorgenfru's, and I didn't grow up in a family that was really built around food and kind of that culture of cooking at home with your grandmother. Didn't really grow up with that, and so for me, cooking has been about a job that I have been good at. And in my early 20s, I kind of woke up and everyone was graduating university and college with chemistry degrees, and I had only ever worked in a kitchen. And it was at that time in my life where it was like, this is all I know. I'm gonna put my head down and I'm gonna do the best I can. And then 5 or so years later, I opened up the Black Hoof and Bar Isabel and Bar Raval.
An inspiration to consumers, to probably other chefs around the city, not only for your talent in the kitchen, but also design and how you bring the community together.
My actual job is I create experiences. The people that work at the restaurants, we create experiences. That's what we're doing. The way we do that is through food and drink, right? So when people come to your house, for a dinner, it's, what you're really doing is creating that experience. And whether it's through the music, the lighting, all that kind of stuff, the food, the wine, that is your vessel for creating that experience. So, we're gonna have lots of time to talk over the next hour to you, but I do want to get talking about the steak quickly, because we're gonna be cooking it differently from the way you normally would cook it, or a lot of people cook at home. So, and this kind of, steak is very dear to me because this is a very expensive steak.
I was gonna say dear is into your heart.
This
is
like a 2-month aged steak from Cumbrae's. It's not cheap. It's a beautiful piece of Ontario beef that has been aged, it's thick, and it's a ribeye, so it's one of the primest cuts. It's one of the only steaks I really enjoy eating. It's my go-to steak because most of the hard work has been done here, right? This is the king of steaks in my book.
Paul and I almost fell out for a chair when we saw the price of that steak. Number one. Yeah. So what should we be looking at when we go to the store, to the butcher, actually, because we buy our steaks from butchers. Paul and I both like to support local businesses. So what should we look at when we choose a steak?
So, I mean, you know, it's great. You know, the thing about cooking steak is it's good to know the meat you're cooking with, you know, because oftentimes if I go to a big, you know, food store and grab a steak, I don't know where it came from. I don't know if it's been frozen or, you know, what kind of quality. And oftentimes you can try cooking and it's just like, it'll all of a sudden overcook and you've barely touched it with heat, right? So, you know, this is like finished on corn, so it's gonna be fattier. You know, there's grass-fed beef. You know, that's going to be leaner and grassier, right? So, but I'm just going to get this in the oven because that's how we're cooking it today. We're going to do a reverse sear steak, okay?
Do we do somersaults at this point?
Yeah, for sure. And you know, I haven't cooked a lot of it this way, but the thing about steak is I prefer cooking a steak on a cast iron pan, okay, in my home. And you know, the problem with this is that any exhaust hood, you know,
right.
You have to cook this thick steak, hot heat, smoking, to get that beautiful crust,
Fire
you know, for
department
like 10
arriving.
minutes, right? So most houses are gonna smoke up the fire alarm. You'll get out the pillow, you'll start, you know, jumping on the chair, right? You know, I'm gonna do this quickly, but we're gonna come back and we're gonna talk to it, okay?
While Grant does that, I want to invite, ladies and gentlemen, please use the chat section on your device to ask any questions. We'll try to ask, there may be more questions than we have time for, and we've allocated about an hour and 15 minutes here for this evening. So if you have any questions, Christian and I have our devices. We'll be reading the questions that you have to Grant, and Grant will be honored or terrified to answer your questions. So we look forward to receiving your questions.
And on that note, Paul and I obviously are our own bubble. We work together. We worked together for 16 years. We have been tremendous business partners. We're good friends, daytime husbands, many call us. And we're very happy to keep our social distance from Grant, who just while you were hearing Paul, salted quite generously that steak.
So Grant, we have two questions from our audience. So thank you, Nancy Lee. Her question was, how long was the steak aged for?
So
I think I saw it on the
8
label.
weeks?
So it's about 2 months. They put a fancy label with my name on it, but don't go
Well,
into
you're
that.
fancy,
But
Grant, that's why.
so this was 8 weeks, right?
Okay, and how much does that steak weigh is another question from one of our viewers. Francis, thank you.
This is 18 to 20 ounces. That's what I asked for, 18 to 20 ounce steak. So
It's about $10 an ounce.
yeah, it's
Foie.
it's about $50 a pound, maybe a bit more.
And why no oil? I have to admit that's a good question because I've made an error. I've always oiled the steak before putting it on. Why did you not oil it?
Why?
Because I don't know how to cook.
No, that's not true. I know you're a very good barbecue.
Yes, thank you.
From experience, I know you are.
Is it just, I just assume high heat. I'm doing it the complete opposite that you're doing here.
Yeah.
High heat and a bit of oil. So obviously I'm doing it a different way or I'm doing it wrong.
So here is, you know, this is what we're here to talk about, and this is the tips I want people to take away from today. It's not about this exact recipe so you can recreate it. It's about that you can use useful information, okay? Most people are taught to cook a steak, if you're cooking it in a pan, to cook it in a hot pan on one side the whole way and then flip it over and cook it on the other side for the rest of the way, and that's it. And then a lot of people like to put oil into it. Right?
I know.
And the thing is,
this green egg mania.
But you know, like this steak has so much fat in it that it's going to render out. Okay? And a cast iron pan, which is one of my favorite culinary tools. If you don't have one of these,
He's hugging that like he's baby.
and like you need like a thick one.
Don't be jealous, children.
You need a thick, heavy one. Okay, you never put this in the dishwasher. Worst pet peeve, right? It rusts. At the end of the day, after you're done using it, is actually when you oil your pan.
At the end of the
And
day.
it doubles
You
as a burglar.
go wash it, a little bit of water,
device.
no soap, because this is, you know, this is not like a steel pan.
So
like
this becomes the soul of your house.
this sucks in flavors like meats and fish and oils, right?
And dishwasher.
That's right. You want to kind of make sure it's dry and oil it.
So we have two technical questions.
Yeah.
Great.
We do have to do some cooking at some
What
point.
kind of salt did you use that you sprinkled
that's
very
right.
generously on
That's
that
right.
steak? And then what temperature did you set the oven at?
Perfect. Kosher salt, you know, this is doubled in price. Apparently, like with stocks and everything else during the pandemic, the kosher salt has disappeared and now it's like $12 a box. But the kosher salt, okay, is not like your traditional table salt. It's softer, okay, and it's treated differently. So you can actually use more as opposed to the iodized salt, okay? So if you have iodized salt at home,
and it has quite a bit of a different texture than the malt salt you have.
That's right. Salt. And then this is Maldon salt, which is a finishing salt. Okay. So this is a softer salt, and this is also a thicker steak. Okay, a thinner steak. You know, you have more surface area, or the same surface area, but you have less interior. So you do season based on how much steak you're not actually getting, right? And that was a thick, almost a 2-inch ribeye.
2 inch, that was one of our questions.
Okay, so 2-inch ribeye, but you know, a 1.5 to 2 inches is good, okay? But the thing about the reverse sear is that we have this oven set at 275. It's a little bit higher than what I would normally do this, but we do have an hour, maybe if people want to stay a little bit longer, to make sure we cook it. It's also a very thick steak.
So at home, what would we do at home if we replicated this?
250, 275. Have you heard of Sous-Vide Cooking?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so
isn't that cooking in a bag?
That's right, cooking in a bag, a plastic vacuum sealed bag underwater at very low temperatures. Okay, this was a modern, you know, it actually started in airplanes for airplane food, and then modern chefs took it and started doing it, you know, 10, 15 years ago. I worked in restaurants with it. And this is very important with cooking steak in general, is that sous vide cooking cooks at very low temperatures for long periods of time.
Like you're doing now.
That's right. Now, generally, if I'm not doing a reverse sear, I'm gonna sear extremely hard here, and then I'm going to let it rest. Here in this oven, we're baking it. We're baking a premium steak at a very low temperature. It sounds very odd, but that's what we're doing. Because we're not going to smoke out this stunning kitchen, okay?
The homeowners appreciate that.
And we're going to get a caramelized crust. But the key to this, okay, the key to cooking steak, and especially premium ones that you're going to sear, overnight in your fridge, if you can, put it on a rack or a plate, but a rack is preferred, okay, unwrapped. Okay, because that 24 hours of just air circulating is going to dry out the exterior of the steak. Okay, that's rule
I thought
number
dry
one.
was bad in cooking.
No, you know, because you know when you're cooking a steak, the whole goal is to remove the moisture, heat and remove moisture, and that therefore cooks it. But the second rule is pull your steak out 2 hours before you're going to cook it. Okay, you don't cook steaks from cold. Even chicken, even pork, because what you're doing is you're overcooking the outside to get the middle warm. And what we want to do is we want to start with basically a room temperature protein so that when we do apply heat to it, it's penetrating that middle without overcooking the crap.
Hence the reverse sear.
That's right. So this one, we are reversing this. You know, we're gonna slowly bake it, and you're gonna see as we go along that.
So we are essentially disruptors in the kitchen.
And it's already 25 minutes, and we'll see how our steaks go.
So we have one of the questions from reviewers. I think I know the answer because you're not used to the oven. Is why do you have a thermometer?
Okay, so obviously live television, you don't want to overcook the steak.
Right.
While we're talking, and it's already 25 minutes. So. But you know, the thermometer, this is like a probe thermometer, okay. And this is great just for, you know, you can set your alarm. So I have a, you know, we're gonna shoot for a rare, okay, a rare coming out of the oven, but we're gonna shoot for a medium rare medium once it's cooked. So
once it's out of the oven.
Yeah, so I've set an alarm, you know, and you know, like I'm gonna take it out around 100 degrees Fahrenheit, okay, and then we're gonna sear it quickly and caramelize it. And then we're gonna let it rest, okay? And apart from never, you know, people not starting with a room temperature steak, my other huge annoyance in cooking, you know, it just below, you know, like when you
tell them right there.
Listen, when you, I'm just looking at my new mustache. This mustache is 2 weeks old, long hair, but when you cut into a steak and it bleeds everywhere and there's the juices, you know what I mean? Like, guys, this is not like, oh my God, look how juicy that plate is. You want your steak to be juicy.
This is not your
and
plate.
the way your steak stays juicy is by keeping the juice in the steak, not on the plate. But what you're doing when you're cooking a steak is you are heating up the moisture. You're basically boiling the moisture in the middle of the steak and it's evaporating, okay? So you're applying heat and all these molecules in water are getting hot and they're coming to the surface and they're evaporating, okay? And that's how you cook a steak. That's what's happening molecularly, right? But when you're done cooking the steak, you still have all these water molecules like active. And when you cut into it, right, all of those molecules are just seeping out. Okay,
I thought you said you didn't study chemistry.
I did.
So basically disrupting the whole...
Well, basically what you're doing is you're resting is when you're done cooking the steak, you let it sit there and get cold for 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes.
Confession, I always put tin foil over while it's resting. Is that a faux pas?
No.
Okay, I got very nervous.
But you have to remember when you take a steak out of the oven or out of a pan, it doesn't stop cooking. That temperature is gonna constantly keep rising. I don't normally use these. This is for demonstration, and so I don't screw up. I just touch it, you know.
Right, but this is good
touch
for
it
our
like
guests,
it, but you know, like this is a good tool because you know when you're cooking for friends, it's nice. Steak is one of those things where it's like, okay, who's cooking the steak tonight for the guest, right? You know, the thing about this is like you can put it in there. You're doing a premium. You're still gonna cook it, but when that alarm goes off, then it's game time.
Now, I have a question about cooking. You talked about chicken and pork a minute ago, and in our household, my gosh, you never undercook the pork or you never undercook the chicken. How should you serve pork? How should you serve chicken? And how do you know when they're done?
I've eaten raw chicken at restaurants in Spain,
Japan.
Raw chicken. I'm not trying to get into some stuff here, but raw chicken is completely fine. Eating anything raw is completely fine if it is a fresh animal and from a good source, okay? So I'll just say that and leave it at that.
We have an excellent cook. Cindy has asked a question. She was told eons ago to rest steak on a fork off the plate. Is that an old wives' tale or something that makes sense?
I think that the idea, if we're talking about propping up a steak, right? So that's the rack. So that I'm using a rack here.
Okay.
And that's to, because again, your steak has juices coming out of it. When you put it on a plate, okay, after you've done searing it while it's resting, you have these two crusts. But if it's naturally going to leach out a little bit of juice, and so you're going to lose that crust. So that fork likely is prop it up like this, right?
Okay.
And I assume that's kind of what she's talking about, right? So, when you're resting a steak, which we will do, halfway through the resting period, right? You want to flip it over, right? Because you got to remember, all that juice is coming back into the middle, but it's also sinking from gravity. So we're going to flip it over when it's done cooking, and those juices are going to trickle back.
Chef, if you cook a steak, if you could cook a steak on using any method, what's your fave?
I cook a lot on fire.
Right.
I love cooking on fire. One of our restaurants, Quetzal, is 25
Delicious.
feet of open fire. We cook steaks and fish and vegetables. But I do love cooking on cast iron and making a lot of smoke. Okay.
There's drama to smoke.
But it's easier to do outside, and it's
Yeah, I do a lot of smoke for other reasons.
It's a beautiful
On a
house,
daily
but it's
basis.
not my house. You know what I mean?
I'm going back to one of our questions about the brand of cast iron pan. Is there a brand that you recommend? And then John asked on that same note, how do you prepare the cast iron pan before cooking? We know that you oil it after.
Yeah.
So those are two questions. Is there a brand?
So, not necessarily a brand, but I'd say where are your sources? Are you getting a cast iron? There's a lot of great, pan sets at Canadian Tire and House and Home, or Home Sense, but if you are serious about cooking a steak or you're serious about getting a nice cast iron, go to a kitchen supply store. Nella, there's a few locations.
Nella's great.
Nicolau, and say, listen, I'm looking for a cast iron pan that a chef would use. And it's about being thick. As far as seasoning, most people will get it really hot, add a little bit of oil and salt, okay, and rub it in, and sometimes they bake it for an hour. There's stuff online, how to season a cast iron pan, right? I haven't done it in years, but salt and oil, rubbed in, because then it's taking on that flavor. The oil is protecting it, but the salt is actually seasoning it, right? This is as close to a living organism that's not. You know what I mean? Like this is, I can't, like non-sticks, like this is essentially non-stick. Non-sticks scratch, they age, you know what I mean? A new non-stick pan is great for cooking eggs the first few weeks, and then your sibling or your partner comes in, they start using spoons and all this stuff, and you're only supposed to be wood or plastic, right? So we don't want to scratch it, but cast irons are resilient. You can scrape it, you can drop it.
One of the few things that ages well in life.
That's right. So
and us.
So I grew up with one of those. My grandmother, all my life, cooked out of one pan and one pot.
That's
a cast iron pot, and she hardly cleaned it, and it was always that same pot on the oven.
Yeah. I mean, our cast iron, it's always on our stove. Like it never goes into a drawer. As soon as we're done, we'll wipe it with a paper towel.
And that's when you put the olive oil on.
Depending on what we cook, sometimes we'll give it a quick rinse. No soap, because remember, it's going to suck in soap flavor. Yeah. So a little bit of hot water, scrub it, wipe it, dry it. If you dry it really well, you don't really have to oil it, but just a little bit of vegetable oil,
Yeah, we're getting into fish.
So
are we transitioning already?
we do have to do some work.
How can we help?
Before we have more questions, I think Paul and I wanted to really thank the homeowners for allowing us and Grant to use the kitchen of a home that's coming on the market next week. So anybody who wants this kitchen, who is a chef, here it is, 84 Joicey. But also we want to thank Wissam and his team behind the camera, Anna and Jamie at the Sotheby's headquarters who are making sure that everything runs flawless. So thank you, Paul, and I want to thank all of our viewers to join us tonight.
Yeah, thank you. I hope it's useful. We're gonna get back to the steak. The steak is slowly, and I'm gonna bring it out just to see where it's at, so that people at home
can feeling some sort of nervousness about this steak.
So let's bring the camera over here quick. Okay.
So Deborah, so this is very apropos. Deborah just asked, is the steak on a rack in the oven?
That's right.
So what rack?
So it's on a rack. It's got a probe in it.
Deborah, it's on a rack.
So, but you can see from a raw steak, like it's only been in there, I don't know, 10 minutes. And all of a sudden the sides here are tightening. They're getting a little bit harder. This beautiful fat here is starting to render. Okay.
What does the word render mean?
Render means like melt, basically. Melt. So it's kind of breaking down. So we're looking good here. Okay.
So is the steak.
And I never promise a certain color, but I'm hoping for a medium rare, maybe a medium, no. So I always like to do for medium rare, but medium rare means, medium well to some, rare to others.
Very true.
We deal with that a lot in the restaurants, right?
I can only imagine.
So Justin is asking.
Trending on Twitter.
when Justin cleans his pan after cooking, he does it with an iron wool. He doesn't use soap. But now he's worried, is he taking away too much seasoning from the meals before, I suppose?
Yeah, I mean, I think, sometimes you can, if you're cooking fish and stuff, fish oils, obviously, like I like to, I like to cook fish generally in, the fish I cook at home in a non-stick. But sometimes you want to do it in a cast iron if you're roasting a whole fish or something. But, I tend to keep fish for non-stick and then meat for cast irons. It's nice to own a pan that's never seen soap or never been in.
Paul, I think you and I are going to be fighting for that pan.
You can take it. Okay, guys.
Yeah, what are we doing next?
We're going to quickly jump into ceviche. I'll show you quickly how to butcher a fish in a very easy way you could do at home. Okay, you know, like a lot of people think like getting a whole fish is, you know, you can't do it at home. I'm going to show you an easy way where you're not going to cut your hand. And you know, the thing about ceviche is you want really fresh fish, okay, as always. But you also want to pick fish like ocean fish, saltwater fish. Not all fish can be marinated with citrus. You know, lake fish tend to have the ability to have a bit of bacteria or parasites, you know, but will die by cooking, which we are cooking, but we're not cooking. It's a different type of cooking. Ceviche cooks it with citrus, okay? And if you have fish and you have citrus, then you have ceviche, right? And you know, you can add different things. You know, if you like sweet potato squashes, you know, that is a little bit more traditional in Peru. You know, different South American cultures and Central American.
Music to you,
you know, have
music to you.
You know,
not
so
a bad meal in Peru.
we're gonna do ceviche verde, okay? And ceviche verde is with this, you know.
Oh wow, what is
this?
that?
Is regular to me, but it might be strange to some people. These are the components of this ceviche right here.
Okay.
This. You know, these are all.
That would be a
we have
beautiful
jalapeno, we have avocado, we have lime juice, we have tomatillos, which is part of the
tomatillo.
nightshade. So this is like a green, you know, kind of.
skin is
almost like a
beautiful,
starchy
actually.
It's
tomato.
almost like a
right?
lychee.
It's called the tomatillo. This is not some, you know, like difficult thing to find. It's just people might pass it. You might have to go to a little bit more of an artisanal grocery store, but nowadays they have a lot of things.
And
right?
in Kensington
So-
Market, there's lots of Mexican
Yeah.
and South American grocery
like,
stores.
like it's like a goose,
Beautiful.
you know, like gooseberries. Gooseberries. You ever heard of gooseberries?
Yes,
Like the little
gooseberries.
ones, right? So
On steroids.
this is part of the same family, and it can be a little sticky. So, you know, you just basically unwrap it, okay? So, and then red onion. So I'm gonna quickly butcher this fish, okay, and then we're gonna start doing some other things, and I'm gonna teach you a little tip with garlic as well, okay? But butchering fish does not have to be difficult, okay? Make sure you go to your fishmonger, get it gutted, okay? Get it scaled, okay? I'm gonna show you a very simple way to do it at home. A lot of people think that they have to be some samurai and, you know, do this, okay?
Stand away.
You don't have to do it. You have a fish
You
head.
did say you haven't done it in a while.
You have a fish head, the gills are removed here, okay? You have this collarbone here, okay, with these fins that have been removed. You can feel the part that feels bones, and then you feel the flesh, okay? I'm gonna start here, and you're just gonna make a quick cut, okay? Like that, that's it, okay? And then you have a spine running down. This is all you gotta do. One cut here, okay? I'm gonna free up a little bit here on the tail.
I noticed
just
you're
here.
pulling your
Yeah.
fingers up, which
Yeah,
I
I'm just,
Grant-
I'm kind of, you know,
Grant,
like
Wendy's asking, she missed this part. What kind of fish is this?
this.
we're dealing?
I didn't mention it. This is a sea bream.
So we're dealing with sea bream. So
Yeah.
Grant is just in the process of butchering a sea.
Yeah. And okay, so I did one cut, two cuts. Now there's two sides of this fillet, right? Of this fish. And then there's a spine running down half of the way. Okay, so what you can do is you can feel the spine, and you just gotta put your knife in there, okay?
Okay.
You know, and so, you know, feel right here, feel right there.
So you
right?
want the spine on the one side
Well,
of the cut.
I mean, we don't want to eat the spine, right?
No, I
we,
don't.
We want to work around the spine. So, you know, you kind of get your hand there, and you can put your knife just pushing down, and you feel the bones, right? So we're just going to stay above those bones, and we're going to kind of, you know, and I purposely brought like a not super sharp knife here, because
Is that a
I've
Japanese
cut
knife?
myself on camera before
Oh,
on live
that's
television,
lovely.
and it's just, you know, it's not great, right? So this is a little bit dull, which is actually kind of good. So I'm kind of, you can see here, you can see again, you can get in here, let's see, what do we got here? What camera are we doing here? Yeah. So you can see this vertebrae here, right? And this meat's just coming along. Like, this is not technical stuff, right?
It's gorgeous.
There's a little hump here, and you just get over that hump a little bit, okay?
Now, is sea bream
And-
from the Mediterranean?
Yeah, this is off Greek coast.
Okay.
And
So-
and is your knife from Japan?
These
It looks
are from
Japanese.
Japan.
It looks like a very delicate knife.
So again, I'm gonna go here. Okay, I'm gonna make this incision here. Be careful not to cut your hands. And again, you're gonna take around the spine. You can just start with your tip of your knife. You don't have to, some chefs will, do it a different way, and you just start feeling with your knife kind of pressed angled down to the bone. Okay, and then it's, it's done. It's off.
Now, why sea bream? Why? So, what would you mentioned?
Sea-
Not using
yeah.
lake fish, which makes great sense.
Yeah.
We only eat wild fish in our house. Why? But why sea bream, for example?
Sea bream.
And can you buy it deboned?
This is a fillet here. We can remove this part here. This is just kind of, you basically just move that, okay? And then we're gonna eventually take it off the skin, which a dull knife, not having a sharp knife, is actually beneficial. But the reason why I brought sea bream is because we use it at the restaurants. It's delicious. Most fishmongers sell it. It's got a good texture for baking and for ceviche, which a lot of fishes don't. Sometimes they're one or the other. And you can usually always find fresh fish, right? Fresh sea bream. Which you look at how cloudy the eyes are, right? The cloudier the eye of a fish, the older it is. So when you go in there, you're looking for
French trick,
right? So we're gonna just take these bellies off here. Okay,
I feel like you need to dig up the head of the fish out of the garbage to see the eyes.
Now, so we have the skin on. We don't want to eat skin, okay? Skin's great when you're searing it, okay, but not when you're making a ceviche. So
without getting too technical, we have a question from Eileen. Eileen is a very good chef herself.
Okay.
She's asking, is sea bream the same or similar as Branzino?
Correct, yeah, it's similar. And
Branzino is the Mediterranean sea bass.
That's right.
You just responded, Paul.
Oh, well, there you go.
It's
I
not-
didn't know. It looks smaller to me.
It's
than Branzino.
similar, and you know what? Sometimes you're gonna get fishmongers that are calling it different, but Branzino is a very good candidate. Sometimes you can order a Branzino or this sea bream. This is a gray sea bream, red sea bream. Being a chef, that's why I like to just go there and pick it out. Because you could order Branzino and sometimes get something else. But Branzino, if you have access to Branzino, it's great.
So, can we ask you a personal question? You don't have to answer this to person, but you're giving us lots of tricks here and tips here.
Yeah.
But the secret probably of being a good cook and making people happy is creativity, your life experiences that you channel into what you're doing on a daily basis, what you're doing today. And I look at you and Paul and I were both wondering your arms, you're very artistic, you have lots of, your arms look like Jungle Book,
Sorry,
basically.
let's see how many tattoos Christian has.
Not there. But, so tell us your creativity, what are your creative outlets and how you channel it into your recipes and your food?
I think, going back to not growing up, in a food family, I'm very just open to other people's ideas, other people's wants, other people's tastes, I'm not doing this recipe based on my grandmother. This is the way she used to do it, so this is the way I'm gonna do it, and this is the way you're gonna enjoy it and eat it. I didn't go to culinary school, and I've worked under some amazing chefs, and I've learned from them, and I've worked with some amazing cooks that I've hired that I've learned from. And it's always about being open for criticism, looking at other ways of doing things and just choosing the best way. And so my style is simple. I like simple food. I don't like manipulating it that much. And I learned that from working in restaurants that make your own caviar, all types of things, right? So, yeah.
My style is give the guests one stiff cocktail to start, and then they won't notice.
And the second one to follow.
That's right. So
before the main course.
We quickly got to get this skin off, okay? Because sometimes you might get filleted, right? The best way to keep fish fresh is to not touch it. So, if you
touch the spine.
If you can get a whole fish, it will last longer. If you get a fish that has been skinned, everything, you have surface area that's going to pick up bacteria or whatever, right? that's still not to be, don't be afraid, but just make sure you get fresh fish or you're buying it the day or the night before you're gonna use it. Taking skin
Very
off,
European, really, in terms of how you do your shopping.
Absolutely.
And I noticed that everything is sitting on ice and in this little cooler box. And I noticed, Grant, you didn't open it. It was like a vault. I tried to open it. It was apparently child and adult proof. But it's sitting on ice to the very last second.
Yeah, I mean, you want to keep it chilled, and I'm going to show you we're going to keep it chilled as we marinate it. But, you know, so taking the skin off, it helps if you have a dull knife, actually, or duller. And you just kind of get your finger, you know, your knife under there, and then you just kind of, you know, like you were pressing down on the bone, you're going to press up on the skin, or on the fish, and then it comes right off. You know, again, if you want to do ceviche, go the morning or the night before to your fishmonger, ask for the freshest ocean fish, saltwater fish for ceviche, and you know, hopefully you have a good relationship and they give you something really nice, right?
Are you allowed to recommend any fishmongers?
Yeah,
in the city?
I mean, I love using, you know, like, I love Hooked. Hooked is a great sustainable seafood store. So, you know, I like people who are really knowledgeable about the fish. Not just selling fish, and sustainable, because obviously we want to be able to eat beautiful fish.
It's also a pretty store. They know, how, to, they know how to display fish.
And you know, I use other ones like Newport, which is, you know, is up on, I think, DuPont, Dufferin area, but they're one of our suppliers. Really, you know, nice Portuguese family who's been in the fish business for, you know, decades. And we get for our restaurants, but they also, like, you can walk in there and buy the fish. So, you know, again, it's whoever's got fresh fish and moving it.
And who you trust.
You know, and that's why it's good. So we're just gonna dice this up, guys. I have made so many different ceviches, okay, and this is just a really basic one with like some interesting flavors.
So Grant, I have a confession to make.
Uh-oh.
So I'm not a big fish eater.
Okay, yeah.
And my partner introduced
The door is over there. No.
And my partner recently introduced me to ceviche, and I thought, oh my God, I'm going to look like a total loser saying no, not trying it. And I am absolutely caught the bug.
You're hooked.
I am hooked.
There you go.
Because ceviche is the most delicate, most fresh, the freshest.
Yes, it's fresh on the
It just
tongue.
melts in your mouth and you can't get enough of it.
Christian,
you don't
I'm
feel
a bit hurt. You're my business partner for 17 years.
You
I'm trying
never
to get you
introduced me to ceviche. And you don't feel full.
Yeah.
It's easy to digest.
Yeah.
It is so full. Really, the citrusness of everything around it really takes over.
Yeah.
So it's a delight. It's really a place with your senses.
Yeah, and why didn't you like ceviche before? Did you just not know?
No, I was
or-
just a very stubborn, narrow-minded. I grew up in a landlocked country, not exposed to too much fish,
That's right.
and I was not open at all to raw fish at all.
What about tartare, raw tartare, beef tartare?
Steak tartare.
Oh my God, I love nothing more.
Where are you from? Where are you?
I'm from Luxembourg.
Okay, so yeah, so a lot of tartare there. And
A lot of tartare.
So I mean, you know, and raw beef to a lot of people is crazy, right? So, you know, it's to each their own, but I always like to be open to trying new food, and as long as you trust the chef, right? But ceviche is one of these things that it's like it can be a hangover cure, you know.
That's a myth. That's an old wives' tale that Cindy said.
A lot of people like to take the leftover juices of ceviche, and they'll put it in a shot glass and they'll drink it in the morning after a hangover. You know that
You
fish
believe in
juice
that?
I've done it before and it's great. You know.
So
what I
you
mean?
have a lot of ceviche.
I have eaten a lot of ceviche. I have gone fishing in Mexico. You know, for yellowfin tuna, caught it myself, butchered it on the beach, made ceviche, stored it in the hotel room, little fridge.
Bet that went over well.
Okay, so we're gonna get this going because it's almost time to get our steak out, okay?
I've had ceviche at your restaurants. It is delicious.
Thank you. You know, so ceviche, so you have diced raw, delicious, fresh ocean fish, okay? There's a few steps to this, okay? We're gonna start the cooking process, and then we're gonna make quickly in a blender a one-shot, easy, basically marinate to complete it. Okay, so
Is it the acid of the lime that cooks it?
that's right. Lime, lemon, anything acidic. You could do tomato ceviches. I mean, it'll take a little bit longer, but anything that's acid, okay. But to get this going, much like the steak, right?
You're doing the kosher
Salt,
again.
okay.
like
And the thing about ceviches, we're going to season it several times, okay. And because we're not cooking it, you generally need more salt for something you're not cooking. So I've added salt. We're gonna add a little bit of garlic here. Okay, fresh garlic.
I am
cloves.
dying to
gonna offer
see
it.
how you crush
I was
garlic.
going to offer
Well, I
fresh
mean,
it.
I'm gonna save it for the potatoes.
Oh, you are,
but
okay.
This is called a microplane.
I have never seen that
No?
before, that instrument.
Well,
Well,
careful,
great.
it'll take off your fingertips.
So-
Be careful.
Take off my touch.
So this is just gonna basically mush this garlic, okay?
I've never
So
used
do you
that.
use this for Parmesan as well?
Yeah, I mean you can do it for Parmesan. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, right? So you get a little bit of this.
Like a
it's-
grater.
instead of mincing garlic, which can get a little bit, So we're just gonna mince a bit of garlic, and this is raw garlic. Raw garlic is one of these things. A lot of people say they're allergic to garlic at the restaurants. To me, when you say you're allergic to garlic, it generally means you're on a first date. You know what I mean? Like, I'll just tell you right now, right? Like, and then they order the octopus, and you're like, sorry, it has garlic.
First date with
it has
you.
garlic on it, so you can't have the grilled octopus.
garlic
and they're
is
always like,
foolproof.
oh no, a little bit of garlic's okay. And it's like, okay, like just say you're on a first date, and but
That makes you not only a good restaurateur, but you're a good businessman. You know your clientele.
I mean, it's like, we don't
watching
usually
your-
call them out, but we know that we're like, okay,
Okay, so Paul and I both like wine.
yeah.
So are you one of those chefs that absolutely insists on having a certain wine or certain foods? Are you very versatile?
You know what? I've spent my whole life really.
Versatile in terms of wines.
Well,
White versus red.
I've spent my whole life worrying about food. I haven't even really dived too much into wine.
Okay.
I have amazing sommeliers on our team that know the wine, but generally with fish, you want a white wine.
Which you have your own white wine, which
this wine.
Paul and I had the pleasure to
yeah.
taste, and it's beautiful. It's very minerally.
So this
fresh.
is a white Prince Edward County wine that I make on my property called Cressy House out in Prince Edward County.
But it was very interesting what you explained to Sam, the homeowner, before, the difference between cultivating wine in the Niagara region versus Prince Edward County region, which was fascinating to me.
Even though they're only 5 hours or so apart, it's very different climates. Niagara's warmer, richer soil. Lots of like peach trees. Deep
Protected
soil.
by the escarpment.
Prince Edward County is more like Burgundy, like a foot and a half of soil. Then you're hitting hard limestone, lots of minerals, colder. Like last week it was minus 30. And so you generally have to bury the vines. Whereas Niagara, you don't. You have to plant them farther so that
So you need a lot more land for the exact same quantity of wine.
Yeah. So I'm gonna add a little bit of lime juice here.
I notice you're carefully measuring everything.
No. So okay. Here's another thing. Okay, I've owned a lot of restaurants. Okay. I've had a lot of menu items. I don't have one recipe book. I don't have one recipe anywhere.
So you
know what I mean?
Grant, you're getting a lot of compliments here.
Oh.
Funniest and best cooking class ever. Because we do feel like we are in the Julia Child sort of television show here, but
I just want to tell how it is, right?
So are you Julie or Julia?
I don't know
Oh
yet.
yeah, well the
I have to think about this.
tomatillo fell on the floor. She's known for that.
But it's the mustache. But I appreciate it. So listen, ceviche, salt, a little bit of minced garlic, lime juice.
And when does it start to quote unquote cook? It looks like it's already changed a bit of color.
So it's going from that clear, now it's starting to get a little opaque. Basically breaking it down. It's breaking down the proteins. Proteins have structure. You add the acid or you add heat, they start to fall apart and lose that structure. That's what's happening here during the cooking process. Okay, so we've started this. I'm going to just put it to the side here for now.
I feel like I have to help out and do something.
Yeah, I mean, no, that's great. You don't want, you want to do that every couple minutes, turn it, right?
Oh, you do? Why is that?
just so you know, because this is the marination. This is like the first date right now. Okay, this is the first. This is the first date. Okay, there's a second date, and then there's home run later. Okay, but that's the first time I ever called a ceviche home run. But so we're just getting it going here. Okay.
So Grant, we have one very good question from. To go back to the steak. Let's go back to the steak for 30 seconds.
Let's
look at the steak.
Let's quickly look at it.
Diane, who is one of the managers at the Sotheby's office in Toronto, asked if the method you explained can also be applied if you like your steak blue.
Yeah.
The reverse,
yeah.
I guess the reverse method.
Yeah, absolutely, because, you know, basically blue, like, and this is a problem like a lot of restaurants have. It's like you don't really know what blue is. Not a lot of people order it. They come in and order it like Chicago style, right? And a lot of places who cook steak or have it on their menu don't really know that kind of stuff, or they do one steak and they don't really know. You go into a steakhouse, you know, no problem. They also have types of, you know, they have types of equipment. You know, at home, you know, I would say, to have a blue steak, you know, you have to have a really good quality steak, okay? And this would be great for blue.
So going back to raw anything that you said.
But, you know, I think this might not be the best way to do a blue steak because the thing is, going to sous-vide cooking, you're slowly cooking it. Okay?
You can't help the cooking process.
The beauty of sous vide cooking is that it's usually like medium rare at the top, in the middle, and the bottom. That's sous vide. That's the kind of basis of it, that it's evenly cooked. What we're trying to do by doing it room temperature starting very low is to not overcook and gray the outside of your steak. Like when I see a steak that's gray on the outside, you know, and then raw in the middle,
you
like,
run.
That's just clear. It's not the best way to do a steak. Okay, you want to see as much pink, you know, the same unanimous kind of color as much as possible. Okay, guys, so we have this steak here. We haven't even done our ceviche. We're behind schedule. Okay, we're gonna have to get you to start helping me.
I think that's a sign that we're having fun.
I hope our viewers
Number one, it's starting to smell like heaven in this kitchen. Paul, you would agree?
I'm excited to be the chef's helper.
I'm going to, we're going to quickly, I'm just going to leave this over here. You like it medium, right? You like it medium? Yeah, okay. So I'm going to, you know, it's your job to...
Medium rare.
In 3 minutes to remind me, okay? So the ceviche, again, we're going to do tomatillos, and I'm going to quickly just show you how this works. Okay, and again, no recipes. It's better to know how to cook than it is to read a recipe, okay? Understanding what's going on, what you're going for, okay? So, tomatillo, okay, like a tomato. We're gonna start with one probably, maybe two.
Look like I see.
Okay. We don't
look at that elegance, how he just throws them almost behind his shoulder like, into the...
You know, do your garlic, you know, throw a couple cloves of garlic in there.
Carefully measured, ladies and gentlemen.
Carefully measured.
Never, okay? Some garlic, okay? Some jalapeno. Okay?
Christian, do you want to cut that?
Jalapenos haven't been hot for like 10 years, I find they're like, you know, they're pretty...
You said haven't been hot?
You know, I find they're not really hot anymore.
They're North Americanized?
Yeah, I'm just like, who knows, you know what I mean? Take out the seeds a little bit, you know, chop up a bit.
So why do you take out the seeds?
No,
that was a good comment.
Is it to tone down the heat?
Yeah, the seeds generally can be very hot. You know what I mean? Like too hot sometimes. You know, depending. Okay, so we have jalapenos, we have garlic, we have tomatillos, we have picked cilantro here. Okay. Nice. Remember, we're making a ceviche verde, right?
Right.
Verde, green, right? Yeah. So a lot of the ingredients we're using right now are green, okay?
Well, all of them so far.
That's right. Yeah. So we're gonna throw that in there.
A red onion there, though, Grant.
Yeah. No, you're right.
I hope he's going to ask you to dice that because I don't want to do it.
Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna get into dicing onions now.
I'll dice it.
Okay,
So what's the difference between dicing it and chopping it? Tell us that.
I mean a square, a dice,
Okay.
and then chopping it is, I don't know, half moons,
You
rainbows.
have a volunteer here.
Is
Yeah,
it just
yeah.
like if you're in Las Vegas, you dice it?
I'm gonna, you know, like I don't know,
Roll the
did we
dice.
sign any disclaimers for getting hurt here? But
Yes.
okay, so I'm going to, you know, you can use this big.
You're going to be very impressed with me.
This big knife, okay. So
Robert, I hope
you're
you're
peeling it right.
watching.
You gotta wait. You gotta wait.
Oh, sorry, I'm just taking off the skin.
No, I know, but you gotta, you know, there's ways to do it, right? You know, you gotta.
I thought I was going to teach you how to dice it.
Okay.
So I know that you're
So-
not the chef in your house.
I know.
So I hope your husband is
It's
watching
the
you.
only decent thing I can do.
Your future husband is watching you. Do this.
Okay, so you have. I'm just gonna take this steak out now. Okay. Well, see, I mean, he doesn't even want to wait.
Wow.
He doesn't want to wait for
And
instruction.
then,
Yeah.
am I doing this wrong?
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
you're
pretty
doing
much
it,
wrong?
You're doing it great.
shoot.
You're doing it great. You're doing it great.
I'll blame the knife.
Okay. Yeah.
It's not true.
I mean, as long as you don't do it better than me,
Japanese
you're
knife.
doing it great.
Yeah, I once beat my great aunt at cribbage, and my father told me that was not a proper thing to do.
yeah?
So, chef, I better not.
Well, I was sort of getting worried that it was not the proper thing to do, that you're teaching the chef how to dice and
But clearly, he needs to teach me. Okay. So you
Mine look like nice squares. Yours are kind of.
Mine look all over the place.
Yours are nice octagons. No,
Thank you.
But no, that's good. We don't actually need that because that's too
Okay.
much onion. But so we're gonna put onions in here, okay?
Cooking wasn't your passion, became your passion, but now you're married to your wife who's also a very good cook.
Yeah. But
Do
yeah,
you
I mean,
debate recipes? Do you debate a certain way of how you do things? Do you learn from her?
yeah, we can get in the odd little fight. That's why it's like, okay, you're cooking dinner, you do it. I'm cooking dinner, I'm doing it.
But
right?
have you
Like,
learned a trick or two from her?
Absolutely. I mean, my wife is, you know, she's a better cook. You know, she blows me away with what she does.
So maybe we should have her on
Yeah,
our
I mean,
next
you know,
show.
she totally, absolutely. So okay, we're going to we have to heat up the pan. Okay, so we got to heat up the pan. We're going to be cooking in the back of the stove just so we you know, we don't create too much smoke. Okay, so we're going to get it that hot. What we're going to do with our ingredients here: tomatillos, a bit of raw garlic, some cilantro, and some jalapenos. We're going to just start to blend it up with lime juice.
Ah,
Okay.
why is that?
Because we've initiated stage one, okay, first base here, getting going. But what's actually happening is that the fish is sucking up this citrus, right?
And the
And
fish
it's
now
starting to cook.
for our viewers is turned white.
So this is turning white, okay? It still can cook. You can eat it now. You could eat it raw,
Yes.
you know? But now we're gonna start adding more flavor. You know, I'm kind of used to this, but you know, this is something where you can just start and you know, and then you just want to look for the consistency. Really what we're trying to do is we're trying to get some, you know, nice garlicky, a little bit spicy, and green shredded cilantro lime juice, right? Like that's all that's going on here. So we're just gonna quickly, you know what I mean? Like that
I
was
thought
like,
you were making margaritas.
well, I mean that's it. That's it.
That was
like
wishful thinking.
that's it. And you know, like
And it looks quite coarse.
yeah, you want it to stay coarse. You want it to stay rustic. You know, and you want to try that?
I'm sure it's a jolt.
And-
Sure.
anyone looking for a pick me up here? If I'm boring you, you know this will help.
It's not exactly COVID friendly.
Delicious.
But we're all in
No, these are
Yummy.
right. So now we need a bit of salt in there, okay?
All right. Ooh, that's
Right? It's a little spice, right?
pungent.
Okay.
Delicious.
Okay, we're just gonna add a little bit here, okay? And now all of a sudden,
Carefully measured.
okay, now we're kind of getting. You know, you don't need to measure. If you're measuring, you know, like measuring is great for pastries, but when you're cooking, you should be cooking. You should be knowing what you're doing, enjoying what you're doing, tasting along the way. All of a sudden, this looks delicious. This is,
It
you know,
smells delicious even.
this is like where, okay, so now we got a smoking pan here, but you know, like this is, you know, this is just flavor. You know, like I can feel the sun beating on my back, you know, in a cold beer right now, right?
You realize we are.
But we have like
Canada.
2 feet of snow out there. But So I'm gonna put that to the side.
Okay.
Okay, it's not done, but it's looking great. This steak has been out of the oven, okay?
Add a couple of my onions in.
I'm just gonna show the camera here how this is rendered.
You didn't do that very elegantly.
Okay, you can see that it's, you know, still nice and pink in there. Okay, nice jelly. This is basically when you're aging a steak, you're aging whole chunks of meat and you're covering it in mold, okay? Like mold and that flavor like salamis, right? Like that's what's going on. And that's what's actually breaking down the protein and making it tender, right?
And that's 2 weeks, right?
Eight weeks.
So 2 months, sorry. 8 weeks.
At least 2 months.
And it's a ribeye steak.
I mean, it's just amazing. It's
No,
so.
I'm sure a viewer's gonna ask that. I can see that pan starting to smoke. What
That's right.
temperature do you have that on?
Who knows? You know, 1,000
Okay.
degrees, 800 degrees.
But high.
You know, like when you're cooking meat, you want something to be smoking, okay? And we might smoke it out. We're gonna turn on the hood. It's gonna get a little bit loud. Okay, a lot of people like to put oil in pans. No, I don't. Cast iron, you don't need it. This fat is gonna render into this pan.
We just got another question here.
Yeah,
Are we dealing with dry aged meat?
that's
or
right. Dry
wet
age. Dry age.
What's the difference between the two?
Wet aged is aged in a bag.
Yes.
Uh-oh.
Kind of like
Sous vide.
enzymes, you know, like you know, the kind of blood and the liquid and kind of ages in there, like bacteria enzymes. I don't tend to. There's no funk on it. It can tenderize a steak, but it's not giving it funk. Okay, and funk in aged meat is good. Funk in your fish, not so good. You know what I mean? Right. You don't want to smell funk, but you want to smell funk. Like, you know, this. You know, smell this. Like, I mean, it
Delicious.
smells funky, right?
And I mean, that's
yeah.
that's tried and true.
So we're gonna get this on. Okay, we're gonna put the hood on. Okay, if you have a bad hood, this is not a bad hood, but if you had a bad hood, okay, I've worked in restaurants with home kitchen hoods steering foie gras at the Black Hoof. You know, we had a little home one. This is how we would sear foie gras. Super hot pan. Drop it down. Okay. Get it really hot. Okay, if you're desperate and you don't want the smoke alarm, you just hold it up here. You know, this is like, you know,
Because the heat is already in the cast iron
right?
pan.
Exactly, right? Like,
The firemen are standing by.
so a common misconception is that you have to keep this steak, you know, steering for so long on one side. Like sous-vide cooking, I like to flip it every 20-30 seconds. You see the caramelization in 20
But
seconds
Chef,
already?
why are you doing it the reverse way? You started off by telling us we're doing it a reverse sear. What are the reasons for it?
Because if I was doing this from raw, okay, you're gonna get a lot more smoke and you're gonna be cooking this for 10-15 minutes in this pan.
Right.
This thing's a minute away from being done. Right? And so this is like literally a minute away from being done. Bring it out in the light here, okay? You know, again, we have so much caramelization going on in here and it's been in the pan for, you know, a minute now.
To me, caramelization means sugar. Is there sugar in a steak?
I mean, there's absolutely sugars in protein,
Right.
and they're kind of caramelizing as well as the meat. You know,
Beautiful. I'm going to do what I'm best at, just turning this.
But Grant, it
So-
doesn't smell what you're usually accustomed to smelling when you cook a steak.
well, because a lot of that has kind of gone, you know, in the oven, right? You've
So
already
that's
started
another
the process.
benefit of the reverse method.
I'm impressed at how little smoke there is
Yeah.
by this method.
So I mean, that's it, right? Like, so.
It's enough to feed
You
a
know,
family of 4.
You know, but we're resting right now, and I'm kind of going for a rare, mid-rare. You know, this will probably be a little bit more rare. This is my favorite part of the steak. Okay, but we also have a couple more things to do. This ceviche's almost done. I'm going to complete it right now because it's cooked. Okay, and this is the point where chefs should be tasting.
That's right. Okay, and sous chefs.
Okay.
Thumbs up.
Then you take some wine.
2 thumbs up.
Then you take a picture and Instagram it, right?
Yes.
Okay. But so a little bit more salt here, okay? And we're gonna do avocado. I brought 5 avocados because one time I did a cooking demo and I had 1 avocado. It felt perfect. It was rotten in the middle, very embarrassing. So I brought 5. Okay. This is nice.
Did you do
Okay. Okay, get rid of that. Okay, good way for avocados. You can just do this. Make sure you don't stab your finger. You can just dice it in there. You know what I mean?
So you dice it in.
Okay, you
the
just
fruit. Is it
you're
fruit?
just slicing it here, right? I don't know if you can see it on the camera. Okay. What we're gonna do is we're just going to spoon it out. Okay, you just take a nice big spoon and you spoon it out, and then you got your diced. You have your diced avocado ready to go. Okay.
Delicious.
Okay, so avocado is such an amazing, delicious product. The problem with avocado is it requires so much salt, or it will suck the life out of here. So we're gonna mix
So
it in.
tell us how you choose your avocado in the store.
How do I know
Because they're
that
either
this is-
too ripe or not ripe enough when you go to the store.
See, that's your first mistake. The avocado chooses you. Okay, it tells you when it's ready. You know, so you buy underripe avocado.
Does anyone have a Kleenex? I'm going to cry.
You buy underripe avocado and you put it over there at room temperature, never in the fridge, and you wait. You wait till it tells you it's ready, and that's when you can have avocado toast.
And how does it tell you?
Well, by being blacker, like dark, right? Because avocados generally can be green,
Hola.
right?
Hola.
Green
So-
when you're underripe, feeling, you know, like
Yeah, that
you know,
feels.
Sometimes they say when you go with your thumb past this part and it comes off very easy, that it's ready. Or is that also an old wives' tale?
you know, this could be a new technique I'm learning here.
Apparently, when this comes off without you having to force it.
Yeah,
I love your avocado connoisseur, so don't
Very
take it from me.
Charitable way of saying
You
no,
know.
Christian. No.
What happens if you had one and it didn't have it? You know, like.
And it's ripe.
Then,
you know,
then it's not
I mean,
calling
it's a lot of people like to touch this for steaks. You know what I mean? Whatever
That's
it is.
how I do it.
I don't know what it is.
I have no idea if it works, but I do it.
So this steak has been resting, right? Remember, the juices are bubbling. They're coming up. Okay, we're gonna flip it over. Okay, we're about 5 to 7 minutes. Quickly.
You didn't do my trick of the tin foil over the top.
No, because you know I'll usually do tin foil if if I'm outdoors or if it's a little bit cold or drafty like my house is. So one thing we're gonna do is we're gonna do a quick potatoes, okay? Fingerling potatoes.
Delicious.
You know, I've kind of overcooked them in salt water so that they're soft, and then we're just gonna cook them in a little bit of garlic, oil, and thyme, and some butter maybe, and that's it.
So you said I overcooked them.
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of, I've let them go and then I've let them sit in this water, hot water to kind of cool down. They're not like overcooked, but like it's okay to overcook potatoes.
So we have raw
in this
fish,
thing,
undercooked beef, and overcooked potatoes.
That's right. That's right. So we got this going. I'm going to take these potatoes out quickly. Okay. Again, remember, when you're cooking potatoes, you start with cold water and salt. When it comes up to a boil, you make sure you taste your water. It should be salty. Okay. It should taste almost like the sea. Okay.
My favorite
So
potato.
this ceviche is the only thing I like to do. Sometimes the avocado, if you want a creamy ceviche, you can start kind of beating it.
I like
you know what I
the
mean?
texture
You can start. I like the cleaner right now, and but this is looking great.
Grant, I think it was improved when I added my 3 tiny pieces of onion.
Absolutely, go for it. But so we're gonna put a little bit more lime juice, okay, and we're gonna put lime on the side, okay. Just sometimes after the ceviche is done and before serving it, I like to just bump up the acid, just to give it a sharp little notes, okay. And then we're just gonna plate it, okay, and you guys can munch on it. Okay, being the chef, I won't eat it as always. You know what I mean? We just get to taste it. Okay. This stuff doesn't have to be difficult, okay? You know, fancy restaurants are great, but I like simple food, you know, and you can just put chips. You know,
No,
just
Grant.
chips on the side, you know, extra onions if
yes,
you want.
I did
you
it
know what
as
I
sort
mean?
of
No,
the
it's fine.
decor thing for your ceviche.
But you know, you can garnish it, but you know, simple is best, and you know that's really going to speak for itself.
Beautiful.
Right there.
Now, Grant, how do you see the restaurant scene in Toronto sort of evolve, maybe, or sort of start again, then evolve
Let's see.
after this pandemic? What do you think? What trends do you hear about? Do you see
Yeah, I mean,
going back to basics, simple food, wholesome food?
I think you know we're a resilient group. You know what I mean? I think restaurateurs we're very resilient. You know what I mean? We it's already a really tough business, and the pandemic has clearly you know made it even tougher. But and it's broken some of us. You know, it's been a tough year for me. You know, I've hit some high and lows, but you know what? You know, the people we work with, and you know, you working with team of realtors, you know, one day you can be down, but you know, your partners bring you up, and that's in the restaurant. And
It's a team.
you know, I think that restaurants are one of the worst affected, but we'll also be one of the first to bounce back, because nothing, you know, reminds you more about normalcy, you know, than going out for a cocktail and a great meal with your friends.
And the joy of doing that with friends.
That's right. So, you know, I think we've all been forced to be very creative. There's going to be a lot more takeout options, a lot more kind of, you know, kits and stuff. I think restaurants have essentially found new avenues of revenue that are just keeping us afloat now, but in the end, we may actually make more money down the road, right?
So there's new opportunities have been created. So
Ladies and gentlemen,
Yeah.
ceviche to go.
how did you keep yourself through this pandemic? How did you keep your mind healthy? How did you keep yourself positive?
Christian, you said you liked ceviche. I want to see.
I think, you know, it was really, you know, it was really just,
May I have another one?
you know, I think it was just, you know, realizing what's in your control and what's not in your control. I can't control if we can open or
How
not.
do you remain creative?
You know, I don't pay attention to what other people are doing. That's the one thing I do. Like I don't own too many cookbooks. I don't really know what chefs are doing what and where. You know what I mean? I feel like it's just more so myself. What am I doing? You know what I mean? What comes to mind? You know, if I come up with a brilliant idea and then you Google it and 20 people have done it, it's still feels like my own idea, right? So that's how I try to be. But
Oh, you're
So-
mashing them.
so we have these overcooked potatoes, you know, slightly overcooked, still structural.
Christian, Grant
right?
is speaking your language.
Oh my
So-
God, is he ever?
I'm just gonna crush these, and you know, again,
Smashed
this
potatoes,
is like
not mashed potatoes, smashed potatoes.
you can do this before, you know, you can, you know,
Paul,
put
would you
it
like
with
to
a
smash
pan.
one?
You know, yeah, go for it. I mean,
The potato that is?
You may
Yeah.
feel
The
better after
potato
that.
that is?
so
That's great.
yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
do it as well
I
as...
think we
So-
should all smash it.
So this is the way, you know, we have some great olive oil that we sell at Bar Isabel.
Delicious.
Alhema, it's a Spanish Arbequina olive oil. We're just gonna basically, you know, fill this pan up with a lot of olive oil, okay? I mean, I think the potatoes, right, you know,
That is healthy.
they start to soak up the olive
Oh,
oil.
delicious.
Okay, a good way to mince garlic, if you need to mince garlic, is not the way the Sopranos do it, okay, where they slice it and then you dice it and what have you. So I'm just
Doesn't someone die in that?
I'm gonna show you a quick way to mince garlic if you don't have the proper tools. You know, sometimes when I have new employees, you know, and I'm working side by side, I like to do this garlic here. Is you basically cut it in half, okay? And then you put it cut side down, okay? And you see I'm just kind of lining this up like this. Okay, I'm just gonna double check these, make sure they're still good. Heat's still on. Okay, but what I do with this is
Delicious.
I'm actually gonna use the back of the knife,
Okay.
okay?
I've never seen that
This
before.
is a soprano thing.
So when I'm cooking with like a new chef that's first day, and I'm beside them, you know, talking to them or what have you, you know, and they see me start doing the garlic. Okay, so listen, you have this,
Okay.
soprano. Okay, this is for like your matriciana pasta maybe. Okay, we're not gonna do that because then you gotta, you know, chop it down. We're gonna use the back of the knife.
I thought you were joking. You
Okay.
are using the back of the knife.
And
It doesn't bruise the garlic?
well, it's actually like mushing it. Okay.
Okay, so,
So
it
the
does
juices
bruise.
are coming out way
So
more.
it's you know, because then you're gonna get these massive chunks of garlic over here, and you gotta dice it down. We're basically, you know, mincing this one shot
With the back of your knife.
with the back of a chef's knife. Okay. So you're essentially chopping, but you know,
And do
and,
those,
you know, listen,
those
you're not gonna
new-
chop your fingers off, right? So.
Those new chefs take you seriously, or do they think this is a practical joke?
Well, I mean, it's like they're kind of looking like, is
Yeah.
chef like, you know,
Chef
does he know his knife is upside down, right? And like, listen, you can see it's all minced, right?
Yeah, beautiful.
Right, and you can go through one more time if you want. Okay, but that's, you know, there you go. So these potatoes, okay, get some browning here.
Delicious.
So what's going on is that these potatoes are sucking up this delicious olive oil. You know, it's not at high temperatures. You know, it's pretty low here. Hopefully I don't splash you guys with any hot oil here. Okay, but I like the skin, right? And it's also rustic presentation. You know, the skin's also helping it stay together.
And it's healthy.
And yeah,
What do you use for mashed potatoes?
mashed potatoes, usually a Yukon, a nice rich Yukon and a lot of cream and butter.
I think Christian's asking out of complete
Very selfish
self-interest.
question.
This meal this evening's delicious. I'm hoping that Grant will share it with us. It looks amazing. Thank you so much for joining us. If you have any last minute questions, please send them to us.
We got to show this.
And we welcome your feedback, of course. We welcome your ideas on new and up and coming potential experiences. So please be in touch with us.
And we have more events coming up, so please feel free to email us or DM us, and we're happy to add you to our special event list. We have something very top secret and exciting coming up in about a month's time.
So thank you, Grant. You have been wonderful. You've been authentic, personal.
Pleasure.
I feel I gotten to know you a lot better doing
Thank you.
this process.
Thank
So
you.
before we go, we've got to see these potatoes. These
So-
look amazing.
Lots of raw garlic. We don't want to like brown the garlic too much. I like the flavor of raw garlic, right? You know, parsley. Okay?
Wow.
Like again, like guys, like, you know, recipes for like, you know, recipes just recipes. You know what I mean? We don't need recipes.
A little this, a little that.
We need to know. Cooking is about knowing what you're doing, knowing what's happening, and knowing when to add certain steps.
And knowing when not to toss like that.
That's right. You know,
Don't know that I could do
you know, you have, you know, but you know, and I'm just gonna like.
Lovely.
Now, the one thing viewers cannot experience, what Paul and I are just experiencing, is
aroma.
the scent of all this. And the passion, the love with all this.
Heavenly. Delicious.
I mean, before we go, before we clean up, you know, you just gotta look at this steak, right? Okay. You don't have this like gray on the outside. You know, this is a medium rare. You know, all the way through.
Well, Grant, it's been an honor. You've taught all of us, and I guess some of the takeaways I got was best product available. Go to your, I shop at Sanigan's, go to your best local butcher where that it is not a supermarket, that you know that it's coming from small farms, and this delicious ceviche, which I can't wait to enjoy. Thank you very much, and we thank the homeowners of 84 Joicey Blvd for allowing us to use their kitchen. And if you want a sneak preview of it, come and see us on Monday when we go to the open market with 84 Joicey Blvd.
Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you very soon.
It's been a pleasure. Good night. Thank you.